The second time I'm discussing Sonic X Shadow Generations, where a lot more has been revealed about the game, so I got a lot of catching up to do. But from what new information we got between now and the original announcement trailer, oh yeah, for all the tiny nitpicks I made and still kinda have about the game, I pretty much don't care anymore. Sonic X Shadow Generations, I fully believe, is going to be a golden release across Sonic and non-Sonic fans. The game, especially Shadow Generations, looks perfect. I really can't find any problem or thing I have issue with now that we're seeing more of the game. And to be less biased and more fair and critical, sure. In a perfect world, no matter what form I would have re-released Generations if I had that power, I would have prioritized remaking the 3DS stages and bosses and making a definitive version of Sonic Generations. I wouldn't delist OG Generations either. I'd remake the story for Generations. The only thing about Generations people either don't care about or know it's the most superficial plot across every mainline Sonic game. Shadow Generations for sure is doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of validating re-releasing Sonic Generations at all, but like I said, like plenty have said for the last 13 years, outside the story, there genuinely isn't much you could alter or tweak to Generations and make it a significant change to the overall experience. Sonic Generations in this remaster is getting some changes. The drop dash is being added to Sonic's moveset, Ian Flim's confirmed to be rewriting portions of the story and some cutscenes for the game, but as kind of weird and forced some of the hate Ian gets is, and I do understand some of the criticism he gets, looking at some of the writing he did for the comics and Frontiers, forget the monthly podcast they do. He has still written really good Sonic material in that same material still, alongside plenty of other comics, Shadowfall, Archie Sonic the Hedgehog issues 175 and 176, Sonic the Hedgehog Imposter Syndrome, and more Sonic media. Plenty where he focuses more on emotional storytelling. Plus, he wrote Dark Beginnings, which was really stellar, but we're gonna get to that a lot later. A lot of hate from what I see of the guy, again, ignoring the podcasts. Sometimes I can't defend a couple of the things he says here and there on that podcast, but a lot of it boils down to just excessively referencing material, at least from what I see. But even assume somehow Generations' story got worse. The core experience would still be around 99% the same, and still, the odds of Gen's story being even just barely slightly better, I welcome wholeheartedly. Sega also confirmed the original game won't get fully delisted in this weird kind of silver lining way. Silver lining is kind of a stretch. The original game's still going to be delisted, but you could get the original game on PC in bundle deals, like Generations packaged with other Sonic or Sega games. And speaking from personal experience, I get why they delisted OG Gens, because it gets in the way of selling the new version. It's the same situation with Sonic Origins and the original classic Sonic games, but on a more understandable spectrum. But I've bought this bundle 2 holiday seasons in a row. The Sonic Humble Bundle, and them and Sega allow customers to donate or spend a very specific amount of money, and they'd give you several Sonic games on Steam. They go on sale around the holiday. From what I recall at the time I got my bundle, I believe it was around 2021. I'm sure the games in each of these bundles and the prices is slightly off, but it definitely went something like this. You spend either $1 or $5, you got Sonic 4 Episode 1, Episode 2, and Sonic and All-Stars Racing. Spend like $5 or $10, you got Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, and the aforementioned games on top. 10 or 15 bucks, you got Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World, Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed, and the games listed just before these. And you spend 20, you got Forces and Mania, and all of those other Sonic games. 2022 Humble bundles the same deal later, plus CD and Team Sonic Racing got like added and cut out of those deals. Now the classic games are gone from PC outside of Origins, but the Humble Bundle would offer 10 or so Sonic games for such a low price on the holidays. Even outside the holiday for $50, which is a plethora of Sonic games regularly. And I'm sure they're not the only ones that do those type of bundles either. So it's an extra step with extra purchases if you're trying to find the original Generations and experience all the mods it still has. But Sega's aware, and they're not fully nuking the original game. They're not going to make it completely hard to obtain, which like, I'll take it. I still have OG Gens on Steam and PS3, but for those down the line still wanting to find the modding scene, this is like almost halfway best case scenario. It's still a little too generous, but Generations looks the same as the original, but it always looked really good, so good. The fact they screwed up Colors Ultimate inherently makes Sonic Generations being the same as the original version in most ways automatically a W. It was that bad. Still, Sonic Generations on its own thus far looks just as good as it always did. But like I said, Shadow Generations is hard carrying, wholly validating this re-release because Shadow Generations is straight up just a whole full brand new Sonic game at this point. The fan service and effort on display is pretty much mirroring how much effort and passion was put in Sonic Generations when it was revealed way back in 2011. For one thing, Shun Nakamura of Sonic Team confirmed Shadow Generations' length is to be the same, if not slightly less, than Sonic Generations, which is great. From that first trailer, when we just got the Space Colony arc and Radical Highway footage and sneak peeks at Black Doom and a boss fight against the Bio-Lizard, I was willing to bet this was not going to be some short, 1-minute stage, Sonic Forces Episode Shadow type bullshit. There were some that thought it was going to be some Episode Shadow bullshit, but no. Even ignoring the litany of stages and bosses confirmed for the game already, it's nice to get confirmation about the game being given the length of your average 3D/boost Sonic game, alongside each level in Shadow getting 2 acts, Act 1 levels being fully 3D, and Act 2 will be all 2D. I could take or leave 2D levels in Sonic games, I just care if they're designed well, but 3D Sonic levels are way more engaging for me, so at least one of the acts being nothing but 3D is a blessing. Still, that's more Shadow than either classic or modern Sonic on average in Sonic Generations 2. But at this point, it's definitely safe to say Shadow Generations is surpassing everyone's expectations in both quantity and quality because they're pulling from a lot more Sonic games than I think anyone ever expected. For one thing, people already played demos for Space Colony Arc and Kingdom Valley, and many came away with positives about the level design and the controls. But just talking about the stages they opted for the game, safe assumptions were accurate that they pulled from every Sonic game where Shadow had some major focus. The Space Colony Arc and Radical Highway are obvious, but both stages look really cool, especially the Space Colony Arc stage. Kingdom Valley. I wish I did reactions throughout each info dump on this game, but Kingdom Valley is low-key the most hyped stage of the bunch. I'm willing to bet Kingdom Valley shocked and didn't shock Sonic fans at the exact same time. If there's one thing you gotta love Generations for, it's it giving positive light and redemption for 06. Crisis City is one of the best stages in Sonic Generations. It's at least my favorite stage in Generations, and the Silver Rival fight is the best rival fight in the game too. So Sonic Generations not once, not twice, but 3 times is redeeming Sonic 06 and remaking that game's elements, and Kingdom Valley makes sense since that's the second stage for Shadow's campaign in 06. It looks amazing. The Act 1 remix is amazing, the Space Colony Arc Act 1 remix is also a pure banger, remixing Highway in the Sky for Final Rush is genius. I fully expect them to remix the Supernatural for Final Chase for Act 2. Rail Canyon from Sonic Heroes, also really cool. With Seaside Hill in Sonic Gen, seeing 2 for 2 on experiencing a good stage from Heroes in Generations is still nice to see. It also looks really beautiful graphically. Chaos Island, I know no one saw coming, and is a very interesting pull because, correct me if I'm wrong, Chaos Island is one of the last islands you go to in Sonic Frontiers, and last I know, having still not played Frontiers yet. Shadow's not even anywhere in that game. I also predicted they probably pull from future Sonic games for stages in that last discussion video, but they're doing that for Shadow Generations instead, so mostly right. But thinking about it, they likely probably had no choice but to grab stages from games like Forces and Frontiers if they stuck specifically to games where Shadow has a big focus on before Generations. That's not a large pool of mainline Sonic games to choose from, and they'd have to double dip on some games, which arguably they're doing anyways because Radical Highway and Space Colony Arc are both largely derived from Sonic Adventure 2. Just looking at both stages' designs and music, but it does look like a mix of both. Chaos Island being tossed in the mix is definitely interesting all the same. I wonder if they're gonna make some story reason for it, or it'll just be Time Eater shenanigans go purr or whatever. Probably the latter, but here's hoping it's a good pick and a good stage. Can't say I'm a fan of its Act 1 music, sadly. Sunset Heights, on the other hand, I'm glad seems to be getting the 06 redemption treatment too. Forces is another one of those Sonic games that's pretty mediocre, but Shadow Generations is giving it another chance to flex better level design and polish up its elements and ideas, and you could tell it is from its remix in the story trailer too. It also makes sense because Episode Shadow in Sonic Forces, according to the game, doesn't take place in Sunset Heights, but enemy territory has the exact same layout as Sunset Heights, and Shadow meets up with Sonic and kicks his imposter's face in when you beat Sunset Heights as Sonic halfway into Sonic Forces, so Shadow kinda does go through the stage in a different way, you could argue. They're also adding DLC in a unique Tokyo level with a skin based on Shadow's look in the Sonic 3 movie too, not to mention the Terrio skin, Shadow's original design, as pre-order bonus content, both of which are really awesome. So, Space Colony Arc, Radical Highway, Rail Canyon, Kingdom Valley, Sunset Heights, and Chaos Island are our stages thus far for Shadow Generations. And since the game's as long as Sonic Generations, if not slightly shorter, that leaves 3 more stages in the wake of the game, and seeing how they're pulling from Sonic games Shadow's not even in, that does leave a lot of potential for what stages they may attach to the character, and theme-wise, they all do match closer to Shadow as a character and his original game's theme, more than, say, Windy Hill or Sweet Mountain. But that might not even matter for all we know, given he has a Green Hill stage in Sonic Forces. But if I had to guess for what the last 3 stages are, I'm gonna guess they're gonna throw in Sonic Colors in the mix, and Shadow's gonna get Asteroid Coaster. Space level, there's a lot of toxic goo in the asteroids you're running across, and the music and overall vibe fit Shadow really well. I'm gonna go with Asteroid Coaster. Second, I'm gonna say since they double dipped on Sonic Adventure 2, they're gonna double dip on Sonic 06 and remake Dusty Desert, since that's the last stage in Shadow's story mode leading to his final boss. And they're going to lean more in the actual Shadow the Hedgehog game stage-wise, because we haven't seen a Shadow the Hedgehog specific stage yet. I'm going to say they're going to pull Black Comet. I know it's one of the last levels in one of the story paths in that game. I couldn't tell you what goes on in that stage though. I haven't played Shadow's original game either. I would love if instead we got Dragon Road from Sonic Unleashed. I'm just saying, just put the best Sonic Unleashed stage in Shadow Generations. You can put the best stage. You can. Dragon Road's the best stage in Sonic Unleashed. And the hype for the stages is one thing, but the level design also looks very promising. People got to play demos, and each had people play the Space Colony Arc and Kingdom Valley. Space Colony Arc's taken a lot of cues from Final Chase and Sonic Adventure 2, even a little Crazy Gadget and Eternal Engine. It's got the green gravity panels, you eventually run through indoor rooms like the latter 2 levels. The fact this stage incorporates multiple arc stages throughout Sonic Adventure 2 together. But there's different options and pathways in the level design all throughout. It's lengthy, cinematic, it looks like a banger if you've seen gameplay of it. Same goes for Kingdom Valley. Even visually, both of these stages look amazing, but I gotta give props a little more to Kingdom Valley, just with how vast the scope looks and the lighting and the fog. The level design is just as diverse, curvy, and expansive as the original Kingdom Valley was, and that's fantastic. It's a lot like how varied Seaside Hill Act 2 is in Sonic Gens, and I think Boost can marry the expansive and diverse level design the adventure games offered really well, and deliver a more engaging experience. Cause like Sonic Generations basically does this too. Plus, Katsuyuki Shigehara, one of the original level designers of Generations, is back after 13 years leaving the original Sonic Generations, now working on Shadow Generations, so I'm pretty sure we're gonna be in for a good time. But visually, I said this in the last discussion too, the insane number of textures across the Space Colony Arc, the lighting on it, every single level, Shadow's fur texture, Kingdom Valley, Rail Canyon, even Sunset Heights. This game just visually, straight up, might be the best looking Sonic game, period. The visual style is very unified throughout, it's ridiculously detailed and vibrant and well lit. It's just a beautiful game to look at, bolstered by how ridiculously hard the cinematography goes. There's a litany of mini cutscenes, quick time events, and cinematics when Shadow's pummeling and kicking a missile on the Space Colony Arc stage, him grind railing on the arm of and dealing with the Death Egg robots from Sonic Forces on Sunset Heights. Like, they're a legitimate stage hazard now. Kingdom Valley's various transitions with the eagle and such. Shadow's expressions, especially when he uses his abilities, the animations on him when he's in the middle of the QTEs, Chaos Control. Sonic Team definitely is taking a lot of care in the presentation of Shadow Generations. It's remarkable. They're also leaning in on Shadow being made of the Black Arm's DNA, so they're using that and giving him various abilities called Doom powers. Doom Spears, which are enhanced Chaos Spears, Doom Blast, an attack that lets him launch enemies, Doom Morph, where he morphs into this black creature and traverses poison and various terrain, Doom Wing, where he can fly, and Doom Surf, where he can surf on top of water like Mario riding the Manta Ray in Mario Galaxy. I kinda like these. Some think it's over the top and it doesn't fit Shadow visually. I disagree. Him being comprised of Black Arm's DNA basically gives these powers a reason to be a part of Shadow, and these powers are basically his vehicles from previous games. Doom Wings, the hang glider from 06. Doom Surf, the hover vehicle from 06. Doom Morph, the Doom Buggy from 06, more or less. And the Spears and Blast look like normal attacks Shadow would have in any game. They're basically extensions of those mechanics that are significantly more seamless and well-paced. I welcome zany, weird Sonic stuff in my Sonic game. He also has Chaos Control, which, duh, and bosses and rivals, 3 of each in Sonic Generations, probably the same here. For bosses, we got BioLizard, which looks fantastic, and Metal Overlord from Sonic Heroes, which is sick as fuck. The way BioLizard attaches itself to the walls and fires attacks, not just in the center of the circle's cool, but Metal Overlord is sick as fuck. Shadow surfing along a flooded, sunken final fortress. There's unique dialogue between him and Metal Overlord. It's so cool. It's so fucking cool. It does the same kind of soft storytelling where Sonic needed to go super to fight perfect chaos in the original Sonic Adventure, but in Generations, he can manage in his base form, being stronger there than in Adventure. Same deal. Metal Overlord had to be taken down with Super Sonic, Super Tails, and Super Knuckles, but Shadow soloing him all on his own, using his own powers and chaos control throughout, which is so cool, it's so fun, it's so cool. And for rivals, for whatever reason, in Sony's State of Play, not the Sonic Central that happened a while ago, you think they would put that in their own Sonic Direct pretty much, they gave us a glimpse of a Shadow rival fight with Sonic, which, thank God. If you were gonna make a new game emphasizing Shadow's history, it'd be wasted to not have a Sonic boss fight somewhere, and here he's one of the rivals you fight in the game, just like Sonic fighting Shadow in base Sonic Generations. Also, Mephiles making a comeback after all these years is sick as fuck. He tried to go 2 for 2 on the blast that killed Sonic in 06. Shadow saw that coming. Again, Generations redeeming 06, not once, not twice, not 3 times like I said earlier, but 4 times. You love to see it. If I had to guess the other boss and rival, I can bet my nuts it's Infinite. If Sunset Heights is in this and they're acknowledging Mephiles, I could see them try and reuse Infinite since Shadow bodied him in Forces' prologue, and this is his rematch. If it's not him, I think Dark Beginnings animation teasing Emerald might not be just like a cool little fight sequence and a nod to Sonic Battle's story. There is a chance they might use him as a rival fight instead. I'm betting on Infinite though. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Infinite. For a normal boss, if Black Doom's not the final boss, then him. If he is, then I'm going to guess probably one of the later bosses from Shadow the Hedgehog. I couldn't tell you which one. I haven't played Shadow, so I don't know. But the fact that they're leaning more on Shadow the Hedgehog, on 06, Mephiles and such, you just love to see how much Sega and Sonic Team are embracing harder than ever Sonic's history. Even the sources of his history that are sources of ridicule, the blemishes that sunk this franchise through the dirt. But ripping Black Doom, making him the main antagonist of the whole kit and caboodle. The Doom powers leaning entirely on lore unveiled in Shadow the Hedgehog. Dark Beginnings doing the exact same, with reintroducing Abe the Gun Commander, Team Dark being a thing again after so long in a mainline Sonic game, kinda. It's related to one anyways. Mephiles, Kingdom Valley, Sonic Prime executing Shadow largely very well, Sonic 3 movie, adapting Sonic Adventure 2 and making Shadow a core focus. This definitely feels like the year of Shadow. Almost every one of these things pitched to Sonic fans just a year or two ago, like speculation. You would be universally met with "you're freaking crazy, there's no way they'd ever acknowledge those 2 games in any major way." A lot of the franchise's worst qualities just immediately got turned into the franchise's biggest strengths. 06 is more on the minor side, but Sonic Team fully, wholly, completely, objectively embracing Shadow's game still feels like a fever dream. The marketing and campaigning for that truly, genuinely does feel like Sega and Sonic Team's strongest efforts in a hot minute. I'm deadass when I say this might be one of the best marketing campaigns for a video game ever. And even when I never played the original Shadow the Hedgehog, I know of its reputation. It's like one of the bad Sonic games for a lot of people. My best friend fucking loves Shadow the Hedgehog, mind you, so I hear good things from him. Mr. Pasquale, shouts out to Mr. Pasquale. And I do know several things about the game itself and its story, so even those unfamiliar like me really do appreciate Sega not trying to make jokes for the millionth time, them and fans pointing at either Shadow or 6 being the worst, destined to be avoided and shunned at all costs, the biggest stains of why Sonic was never good to begin with. But they know now this isn't the 2010s anymore. It's them taking characters, story elements, and gameplay elements they made and spinning them into something that can be entertaining and creative by playing them more seriously. They need to do that a lot more with the Sonic franchise, and this game truly feels like we're still going higher on that upward slope for Sonic as a series. This, the Sonic movies, Sonic Frontiers, the prologue animations accompanying Frontiers, now Shadow Generations. There's clear, genuine ambition. There's amazing action. And don't get me started on the storytelling finally. Dark Beginnings is the best animated Sonic anything in a long ass time. Dark Beginnings is a phenomenal prologue. Extremely well written, fantastic action, the voice direction was amazing, great animation, everything about Dark Beginnings. Unironically, in my opinion anyways, it's actually perfect. Bringing back Abe, reestablishing Gun during the events or right before the events of Sonic Generations, like they never left. Humans? In my Sonic game? in my Sonic world? Like they were never forgotten, giving us a Merle, making Team Dark a thing for the short, the moments between Shadow and Maria, Shadow being vulnerable at the fact he's thinking about the life he lost at the end of episode 3. It almost got me in tears. You don't even need to watch it to better understand Shadow Generations' plot. It's just an amazing batch of episodes that dive into these characters and what they're about, what they lost, and what they strive for. Ian Flynn cooked with the writing for Dark Beginnings. So for him writing all of Shadow Generations' story, and thus far it looks good, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. And given the tone for Shadow as a character, and the game heavily focusing on Shadow's dark past, I highly doubt it's going to devolve into Shadow and the other characters heavily referencing material they've been in. Maybe like a little, but I doubt it's going to go too crazy. I do hope Abraham Tower, the gun commander, is in the game somewhere. That'd be cool too. Also, just judging how Dark Beginnings ends, I'm willing to bet the game's going to start with Shadow on his way to the Ark, and then it breaks out into the stage's first act, then either before or after Act 2, Shadow's then thrown into white space. But even outside Dark Beginnings, Time Eater is a force Shadow has to worry about now, alongside Black Doom, but we get glimpses of Maria and Gerald Robotnik in the distance when Shadow's in white space. The developer interview really leans in on the fact they understand how story-driven and backstory-heavy Shadow is, so they say they want to lean in on that aspect of his character and make the story shine Shadow and the experience in a great light, which leaves me very hopeful for what the story could be, especially because not just Shadow being the main centerpiece, but also because Sonic Generations effectively had no story at all. So Shadow Generations will give us a deeper, more interesting narrative to digest, but they got me fucked up. If at some point in the story, for time and space to go back to normal, for things to be normal, Shadow has to let Maria die. Dark Beginnings playing into Shadow, grieving the life he lost, still thinking and grieving about Maria. Same for Abe. And it ends with Shadow still allowing Maria and his thoughts, cherishing her and his memories with her, but allowing events to play out as is for the greater good. I actually might cry if they go that route, but that'd be so damn good for Shadow's character and for fans of him. I'll drop some highlight reactions for Dark Beginnings when the discussion's over, but I have a lot of faith in this story. There's a lot of ways they could take this, at least the core plot, with Shadow and his character. Roger also voiced Abe and Omega in Dark Beginnings. I thought that was Matt Mercier. I thought Matthew Mercier was voicing Abraham Tower. What the unbelievably insane voice direction. That dude was built to voice old men. Why is he voicing little, teenage, bratty rat man, dude? Why is he voicing Sonic? He cooked with Abe and Omega. Roger voicing Omega and Abe is straight up his best contribution to the Sonic series of voice acting as a whole. In my opinion, it was really good. That regular show episode was pretty good, you guys. The new regular show episode kind of slapped. Voice acting as a whole was great. I'm warming up to Kirk Thornton as Shadow a lot more after that. Also, I can believe Shadow can never truly move on if he doesn't think about Maria every now and then. Some also don't get trauma memories do just come flooding back every now and then. People do ponder the what ifs when they do come back every now and then. Like, it happens. So, like, I can believe it. I do understand the sentiment of how, oh, Shadow put his past behind him. That's the whole point of 06. This might regress his character. But there's still potential that this could still progress his character and not push it back like 05 and 06 didn't happen. Because, I mean, like, the game's already acknowledging a lot from those two games. So, like, I have faith the story's gonna be good. I have faith the story's gonna be really engaging. But man, October 25th can't come soon enough. I'll almost be done with my canvassing job by then, but of the litany of games dropping this and next month, Sonic X Shadow Generations definitely is in my top 3 most anticipated games of the rest of this year. It's fighting a lot against Super Mario Party Jamboree, but Mario & Luigi Brothership and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero make it hard to compete at the top, personally. Still, I don't care if Sonic Generations could be the most basic re-release. I want Shadow Generations super bad, and I'm basically getting it only because of Shadow Generations now. It's gonna be so good. Dude, it's gonna be so good. I'm so ready. Are you ready? Let me know if you're ready or not in the comments. Give me your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. I'm SuperMarioT, and stay super.
Shadow! Hurry! Hurry! You have to see this!
What's wrong?
Nothing! Look!
It's lights.
They were fucking foul for that one.
Just as happy to spend time with you here while you both research.
She's so sweet, but you could cook a whole ham on that forehead. I'm sorry. No, they were cool with this though. The way he throws hands. Sonic characters low-key should throw hands more often. I kind of agree now. It's sick they decided, yeah, we'll keep continuity, we'll keep the moon destroyed. He's got the brown and green eye, bro. They wanted nothing to do with the Shadow the Hedgehog game for so long. See, I don't know if they would have healed her illness if she lived, but that smile could cure cancer. Okay, that low-key kind of looks like Sand Ocean a little bit. He's so cool. She's so cool. He's so cool.
Now about this spacecraft. I can take you to a ship, but in return you're going to have to promise to come to Sonic's birthday party. I'll take that.
Just an obstacle in my way. I call dibs.
He's been calling dibs all night. They need to use Omega more. They barely use this dude. He's got a heart, you guys. That was the teaser. Wait, that's a yep. Yep. Is that? That's fucking Matt Mercier. Oh my god, bro. He's in everything. I love the guy. He's in everything, bro. I just know his voice. That's Matt fucking Mercier. Come on.
Stop it. That life was taken from me long ago. I need to focus on the mission at hand.
That would make me cry. Damn, dude. That shit was close. That shit was really close. It almost got me crying. Oh shit, man. What? You're fucking kidding me. That was fucking Roger. The vocal range on him is crazy. You know what? Holy shit. That's crazy. He voiced Abe. I thought that was Matt Mercier. Bro. Oh my god. No, that's fucking crazy. Roger, that was probably the best performance in any Sonic thing. That's my favorite so far. That's crazy.